In the rugged borderlands of the South Caucasus, two powers clashed, not just for territory, but for survival, for legacy, and for the soul of a region. One was an ancient empire struggling to hold on. The other, a rising kingdom with fire in its veins. This is the epic story of the Byzantine-Georgian Wars.
At the turn of the 11th century, the Byzantine Empire loomed over Eastern Europe and Anatolia. To its northeast, nestled between mountains and empires, was Georgia, a kingdom in the making. The two shared faith, a border, and an uneasy history. When Prince David III of Tau helped Emperor Basil II crush a rebellion, it seemed like the beginning of a strong alliance. But loyalty in the medieval world was fleeting. After David's death, Basil annexed his lands, breaking promises and igniting a fire that would burn for decades.
The first real test came with King George I of Georgia. Young, ambitious, and determined to reclaim what he saw as rightfully his, he struck first, seizing Tau. But this was no ordinary land grab. George forged an unlikely alliance with the Fatimids of Egypt, putting the Christian Emperor Basil in a tight spot.
But Basil waited. After crushing Bulgaria and with the Fatimid Caliph dead, he turned east with fury. In 1021, battle erupted near Lake Pelekazio. George fought hard, even burning his own city to slow the imperial army. But it was not enough.
In 1022, Basil delivered the final blow at the Battle of Svindax. George lost lands, lost face, and even gave up his infant son as a hostage to Constantinople.
But Byzantium didn't stop at open war. It used another weapon, subversion. Over the next decades, Constantinople repeatedly backed rival claimants to the Georgian throne. One of them was Demetrius of Anacopia, a prince turned pawn in imperial games.
Even more dangerous was Liparit IV of Kildekari, a noble too powerful for his own king to control. At one point, Liparit ruled nearly half of Georgia, not as a rebel, but as a Byzantine dignitary. The empire didn't need to conquer Georgia. It just needed to pull its strings. Then, the world changed. A new threat swept in from the east, the Seljuk Turks. For the first time, the empires of Byzantium and Georgia faced a common enemy. This crisis forced former enemies to become allies. A royal marriage sealed the pact. War had forged enemies, but survival forged allies. In 1204, everything changed again. Crusaders stormed Constantinople, the once mighty empire shattered. And in the chaos,
Georgia struck.
Under Queen Tamar the Great, Georgian-backed forces seized Trebizond. There, they installed Alexios and David Komnenos, founding a new empire on the Black Sea's edge. A pro-Georgian state born from the ashes of Byzantium. For the first time, Georgia was no longer defending, it was expanding. Over the next century, Trebizond became a pawn in power games between Byzantium and Georgia. Emperors rose and fell. Georgian warriors marched through mountain passes. Even a Georgian princess, Anna of Trebizond, was crowned empress with support from Law's warriors and King George V. Trebizond had become a symbol, a last outpost of Christian resilience, caught between the ambitions of fallen empires and rising kingdoms. On the battlefield, the Byzantines preferred maneuver, diplomacy, and subversion. The Georgians? Siege, courage, and territorial ambition. Their wars were as much about castles as kings.
But this wasn't just a military rivalry. It was cultural too. Byzantium was the older brother. Georgia, the ambitious heir. Georgia adopted Byzantine traditions but twisted them into its own, becoming a proud, independent Christian kingdom. The Byzantine-Georgian wars weren't just about land. They were about identity, sovereignty, the right to rule and to remember. From bitter war to uneasy alliance, from rebellion to empire building, Georgia emerged stronger, more unified, and ready for its golden age. And Byzantium, it never truly recovered. In every ruined fortress, in every faded fresco, the echoes of empire and ambition remain. The wars are over, but their legacy still shapes a region at the crossroads of East and West. If you enjoyed this deep dive into medieval geopolitics, of empires risen, alliances broken, and legacies carved into stone, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. What part of Georgian or Byzantine history should we explore next? The past still echoes, and we're listening.